I've been trying to work out why I am so fascinated about cities and places. And I think I've tracked it back to a netball match. I am 12 years old, and I live in a northern city in England. And me and my mates are going to play a netball match against another school. And there's lots of laughing and shouting, and we're getting ready. We get on the coach, and we're probably throwing crisps at each other. There's lots of bravado. And the coach takes us through our part of the neighborhood, through our part of the central city, and then it starts to go to the other side. And there's a silence that just descends. We're all quiet. We're looking out of the windows. And in this area, all the streets are wide. There are trees on each side. And the houses look like they have enough bedrooms for each child. And the shops, they look like they've got things in them that are worth buying. So, I'm a little vexed by this. And yeah, we've talked about inequality and social justice at home, but sometimes seeing is believing. We get off the coach, and I think I managed to articulate a very short sentence to my games teacher, Mrs. Westford. And it was something like this: have you seen this? Have you seen the difference? And she looks at me and says, "It's all right. It's just how it is." So, we've all felt what I felt then. We've all felt that sense of place. Or maybe it should be called something else. Maybe it's not really a very good feeling that you've had. We've all walked through a street and for some reason felt uncomfortable. You might have been in a park that felt deserted. You might have been walking down a high street and felt stared at, either because of the person you're with or because of who you look like, what you look like. The thing is, this is an increasingly urbanized world. We have to decide to design in equality into towns and the places we live in. Across the globe, increasingly, the majority of humans will be living in towns and cities, whether it's Lagos, Paris, New York, London. 50% now. By 2050, 70%. If you want to break that figure down and make it feel a bit more homely, there's 9 million of us in London, 11 million in 2050. Just think about if we get cities wrong. All of those people not thriving, but striving. We have to change the way cities are built and designed. We have to make people feel like they belong. We have to create better economies, jobs, opportunities, great spaces to meet each other and to accept each other. And how do we do this? Well, I think you always have to look to the past and to the future. So let's do that. I'm going to start with the 1940s. After the Second World War, globally, we felt ravaged as a society. We were looking for a new social contract, government and communities. We kind of realized we had to do something better, that people deserved better, better housing, better care, respect. Now, there's one act which was pretty crucial to creating better cities, and that was the 1947 Town and Country Planning Act. Don't worry if you've not heard of it. But you've heard of the National Health System, haven't you? You know there was an act behind that. Well, those two acts were kind of like sisters. You've heard about one, and probably not so much about the other. The National Health System was there as part of this public social contract to make sure that every single person got healthcare for free. This was an amazing advancement compared to what happened before. Now, that act that you probably can't remember yet, the Town and Country Planning Act, that did something very similar. That used the value of the land, of the country, to actually create better cities and towns. It meant that landowners, when they sold the land, gave much of the profits to local and central governments to create better cities. Now, with that money, you see today, your local park was probably built by that. The social estate that you live in or next door to, the national parks that border cities and towns were built with that money. Now, whilst the National Health System has survived, that act hasn't, and we're struggling. So, where do we go from here? I've had the opportunity to work with a whole plethora of people and organizations. Developers, planners, communities, architects, designers, policymakers, government, adults, young people, children. And we've been looking at how we build the cities we want to live in, and the cities I hope we want future generations to live in too. And there's kind of three things that have come out of those projects, those ideas, that I think help to make a successful, inclusive city or place. So the first one has been open to the yes. Understandably, we've said no to a lot of things. Change can be difficult. But if we want to feel comfortable in places, if we want local economies, if we want new housing, we have to come to the table with a yes. We need to decide what it is we want and be willing to talk to others to make sure we get that. So, it's not about pointing the finger. It's not about saying all developers are dreadful, they have no idea and no ethics. Well, some of my best friends are developers. They have ethics. They want to create a positive impact now and into the future. And there's no point saying, well, communities, what do they know? They've got no idea about profit. They're unreasonable. Well, that's totally wrong too. I know so many projects where communities have had the solutions and they've created places that they want to live in, other people want to live in, and stay in. 2. There are 2 parts to 2, sorry. Just thought I'd get complex. But they both begin with co. So the first one is collaboration, co-creation. We have to bring everyone to the table. And the way we do that is making sure that when we design new cities, estates, parks, places to live in, that everyone is there. If anyone is missing, it's not because they're hard to reach. I hate that phrase. It's because we haven't done our job properly in opening the door and making sure they're sat there with us. And that means working with philanthropists, individuals and organizations that have money and want to do good with it. Profit comes last. The social impact comes first. And we need grant-making foundations, you've heard of many of them, who come with the grant-making and support big projects around cities and place, or small-scale ones. And we need developers and communities to bring their knowledge about how you build better cities. So that's co-collaboration. Co-investment. Now, it's pretty difficult to get this right if there's only one group funding it. A city needs to be co-funded. And we're seeing some of that happening, some small projects. Crowdfunding. I'm sure some of you have put money into a neighborhood project that you really liked the idea of. So you're co-investors. We do need ethical banks and ethical loaning. And we just need people's time and resources. Now, those two things, or if you've been fussy, 3 things, co-collaboration, co-investment, co-creation, they are at the beating heart of placemaking. They are also the brains of placemaking, inclusive placemaking. Without them, it doesn't happen. So what do we do next? Well, in a way, we create a movement. Outside of this room, we talk about how we can do this. It's not going to be easy, but we need to step up and disrupt things. So, that question about pinpointing why I'm here. For me, and I think for you, anything other than a city that creates an economy where people have jobs and homes and spaces to meet, where we have social and economic value at the heart of how we shape where we live, is crucial. Because decades on from my 12-year-old self, I know that anything less than equal cities is not all right.